There's no volume. No volume.
Virtually, and it is also the first time we're having a joint Africa Water Week and Africa Sun conferences. This conference is organized jointly by AMCAO, the African Union Commission, and the government of Namibia in collaboration with other development partners. The conference will be organized over a period of 5 days with several interesting sessions. Please go to the conference platform for the detailed daily agenda of the entire conference.
Namibia currently holds the presidency of AMCAO. Namibia is a country in Southwest Africa with beautiful landscapes and wildlife and diverse peoples and cultures. Here a video that shows her cultural diversity.
In a country known for its proud history of and continuing appetite for promotion and preservation of cultural heritage, it is apt that this culture features in the Namibian constitution. The Namibian government National Heritage and Culture Programs identifies, develops, and promotes the culture and heritage of Namibians for nation building so that Namibians can enhance economic development capabilities in confidence with pride, unity, and national identity. With just 2.1 persons per square kilometers and a population of 2.5 million, Namibia's different cultures span over an impressively diverse population of many tribes in a sparsely populated country. From the Ovamo and Setswana, known for their energetic and captivating dancing, and the Herero, who are admired for their colorful Victorian dress, to the Damara and Namas with their fascinating clicks in their language, and the nomadic San and Himba people who have managed to preserve their indigenous ways in this modern age. While in the far northeast, we find the people of Zambezi, who are found along the river and are known for their gardening skills. The vibrant people from Kavango, known for their friendliness. Namibia boasts cultural and historical flavor and spades. German colonization left its own imprint in this Southern African nation, with German being a widely spoken language today and German architecture and cuisine featuring prominently. Namibia's diverse and at times harsh climate contributed to its colorful historic, with skirmishes, international and national, reflected in much of its modern history.
Ladies and gentlemen, to get this event started, we will here introduce the Executive Secretary of AMCAO, Dr. Rashid Mbazira, who in that capacity oversees the affairs of the Secretariat of AMCAO, which is hosted by the Nigerian government in Abuja. He will now deliver the introductory statement. Over to you, ES.
Excellency Amina Mohammed, Excellency Ambassador Joseph Asako, Excellency Fatima Madbayo, Honorable Carl Gustav Schleswin, Honorable Ministers and members of the AMCAO Governing Council, Excellency Gilbert Humbo, Excellency Dr. Beth Damford, Excellency Ambassador Abdullah Sen, delegated representatives of AU member states, representatives of our funding, technical and implementing partners, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. As I welcome you to our inaugural Africa Water and Sanitation Week, Allow me to highlight the purpose of the Africa Water Week and Africa Sun Conference platforms. The platforms have served the water community in Africa as effective mechanisms of motivating action at political, financial, and technical level to actualize the Africa Water Vision 2025. The Africa Water Week series has focused on various aspects of assuring water security in the grand scheme of Africa's development agenda. To raise the profile of sanitation and its vitality to the advent of the green economy in Africa, the Africa Sun movement was launched in 2002. Together, the platforms have steadfastly pushed for concerted effort to improve water management and access to water, sanitation, and hygiene services. With evidence from various role players in the sector in Africa, the platforms have been used to highlight the need to accelerate action to achieve water and sanitation goals. The case has repeatedly been made for how ensuring availability of water holds the promise for bringing down the overall disease burden and reducing the number of deaths due to preventable diseases, and how water governance improvements will release Africa's development potential en route to the actualization of the vision of a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. The commitments of our political leadership and the water community notwithstanding, the following key statistics underscore the enormity of the challenge still ahead. First, 63% of the urban population in Africa still faces challenges accessing water. Second, about 340 million people in Africa lack access to potable water. Third, about 550 million people in Africa lack access to basic sanitation. Fourth, less than 50% of the African population have hand washing facilities with soap at home. Fifth, the prevalence of open defecation was on the rise in the period 2000 to 2017. And sixth, the underdevelopment of water infrastructure accounts for up to 2% of Africa's lost annual GDP growth. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now put these statistics in the context of both the COVID-19 pandemic and the related vaccine rollout challenges facing Africa. Prevention of the spread of COVID-19 and other diseases through such basic hygiene measures as hand washing is constrained by the inadequacies in related services provision. In turn, economic productivity is affected with major implications for Africa's aspirations for economic growth and social transformation. Incidentally, all major fora for identifying solutions to the sector challenges, particularly in Africa, had to be delayed for over a year now due to the pandemic. This Africa Water and Sanitation Week and the 9th World Water Forum being but two examples. This translates into at least a year of time lost in the implementation of sorely needed strategies and solutions to address prevailing water insecurity and inequity in Africa. Not to mention the harmful effects of climate change on already weak sanitation systems. Against this background, the overarching goal of this inaugural joint Africa Water and Sanitation Week conference is to provoke action to strengthen our ability to fight against COVID-19 and future pandemics, to provoke action to invest in water to create greater resilience to climate, health, and food system shocks, and provoke action to improve management of water-related disaster risks. As we commence on this week-long period of dialogue, knowledge and information exchange, strategic planning, and formulation of solutions, let us bear this goal in mind. The Windhoek multi-stakeholder declaration for accelerating water security and access to safely managed sanitation and hygiene in Africa must be actionable and strategic vis-a-vis addressing the fundamental issues. It must also focus on getting all member states on track to achieve SDG 6 as a precursor to realizing the aspirations of Africa Union Agenda 2063. I thank you and look forward to our engagement throughout the week.
Many thanks, Your Excellency. Now, AMCAO is an intergovernmental institution of the African Union. AMCAO's organs and structures serve as the working group on water and sanitation of the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, ARWE, of the African Union. And talking about the African Union now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome the African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, Her Excellency Josepha Lionel Correa Sacco, to deliver her welcome statement. Due to unavoidable circumstances, Madam Olushola of the Olaide of the African Union will deliver the welcome statement on behalf of the Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Your Excellency, Mr. Karl Herman Gustav, Minister for Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Republic of Namibia, and the President of the African Ministers' Council on Water. Honorable Ministers, Dr. Rashid Mbazira, Executive Secretariat of the African Ministers' Council on Water, esteemed experts, representative of regional economic communities, RECs, African regional institutions, development partners, civil society group, and the media personnel, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to convey the apologies of Her Excellency, Ambassador Josepha Sacco, the AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, who would have loved to participate at this opening session. But due to unforeseen circumstances, Her Excellency could not join us at this opening session. Her Excellency sends best wishes and extends a warm regards. I now read the statement on behalf of Her Excellency. I have the honor and privilege to deliver these welcome remarks on behalf of the African Union Commission at the opening of the 2021 African Water and Sanitation Week, comprised of this 8th Africa Week, a Water Week, on the theme Water Security for Public Health and Human Development, and the 6th Africa Sanitation Conference on the theme Accelerating Access to Safe Sanitation and Hygiene in Africa at SDG+5 and COVID-19 era. This conference is very timely because water is so precious and very vital for human existence and is essential for the different dimensions of sustainable development in the face of many risks facing our society and the environment. Distinguished delegates, I wish to congratulate AMCAO and the Republic of Namibia for convening this 2021 Africa Water Week during the global pandemic period. I also commend the Secretariat and the partners that have jointly organized to jointly facilitate the organization of this 2021 Africa Water Week events. I wish to further seize this opportunity to acknowledge your participation at this laudable event, which is indeed a proof of the priority that you all accord to issues of water, sanitation, and hygiene wash. Distinguished delegates, COVID-19 is a global threat that has awakened the whole world to the utmost importance of water, sanitation, and hygiene wash. Hence, the choice of the theme of this conference therefore resonates well with the current global situation. Distinguished delegates, 65% of Africa's continent consists of network of rivers, basins, waterways, and freshwater and fresh aquatic resources. This is a highly significant proportion and demands serious attention to be given to our water resources. The potential of water for health, sanitation, and livelihood cannot be underscored. In this respect, the different organizations serving as conveners and also participating at this unique event here have an important stewardship role to play for water security to achieve public health and sustainable development in our continent. Distinguished delegates, as we are all aware, the African Water Vision 2025 was adopted at the beginning of the millennium to sustainably manage Africa's water resources at a level of social economic development. In addition, the July 2008 Sharm el-Sheikh commitment on water and sanitation are the major policy frameworks guiding the water, sanitation, and hygiene and multi-purpose uses in the sector. However, these crucial frameworks now need alignment because, as we all know, since the adoption of these landmark policies, many trends and changes have taken place, and others, such as the COVID-19, have also emerged, which now has broadened the scope of this important and crucial sector. Distinguished delegates, permit me to mention that the current trend also shows that we will continue to witness the expansion of human development with riparian cities and accompanying pressures that will bring, hence the importance of water security for human development. In addition, the latest report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change also brings us their warning when it comes to water and indeed survival of our planet. We will face intensified water scarcity, water stress, rising sea level, and expansion of water will exacerbate saltwater intrusion and salinity, affecting the quality of water. Africa's small island developing states are particularly vulnerable, as well as the 38 coastal regions. Some landlocked countries will also experience issues of drought and desertification. Some lakes also, like the Lake Chad, as we all know, is shrinking, and also the ice on Mount Kilimanjaro is melting. So the impact of climate variability and climate change will no doubt have a severe impact on WASH. Distinguished delegates, this is therefore an urgent need for coherent and coordination of multi-levels users, and the AU Commission is fully committed to advocate for water and engage with the regional economic communities and all partners in advancing water security and accelerating access to safe sanitation. At this juncture, permit me to felicitate and congratulate AMCO on the launch of the Africa Sanitation Policy Guideline, which would accelerate African countries and which will facilitate African countries on development of sanitation policies at the national and regional levels. As we deliberate on water security for public health and accelerating safe access to safe sanitation and hygiene in Africa, we must ensure that women are firmly at the center of our vision. Evidence shows that women play a key role in water use and serve as the primary managers of water and sanitation and hygiene at household and community level. The nexus between water resources and gender equality also relates to women's personal well-being and well-being, security, livelihood, and socio-economic advancement. It is unacceptable that in this day and age, the gap in development is so huge that women in some communities in Africa still have to trek an average of 6 kilometers and carry a load of almost 20 kilos on their backs to fetch water, which is mostly not portable in accordance with the SDG Goal 6 on water and sanitation. The situation is exacerbated by climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic, when the demands for hand washing and water resources have increased exponentially, while the cost of water resources have also increased as well. Such day-to-day lifestyle requirements might seem harmless, but a severe impact on the ability of women and girls to improve the living conditions and participate meaningfully in our economies. We ignore the impact of water on women and at our own peril. Distinguished delegates, the 2021 Africa Water Week is therefore unique and provides an important platform for organizations to engage with each other, develop synergies and complementarities, and truly make us to work together on to deliver on water security for public health and human development. I believe that the outcome of this week will contribute to the achievement of the Africa Water Vision 2025, the SDG 2030 on Goal 6, and realization of the Africa Agenda 2063. Lastly, I thank all the development partners that have been supporting the sector and also send a note of appreciation to all of you honoring our invitation to participate at this important event this week. Finally, I wish to assure you all of the unwavering dedication of the African Union Commission in advancing the issue of Africa water and sanitation agenda for public health to support our regs and member states. I thank you all for your kind attention, and I wish you all fruitful and productive 2021 Africa Water Week. Obrigada. Merci beaucoup. Asante sana. Muchas gracias.
Many thanks, Your Excellency, for the warm welcome. AMCAO is a lead convener for the African Union member states and other key players in the continent's water and sanitation sector. As a result, we work closely with many partners within the continent and around the world. Some of these partners will be delivering goodwill messages today. The African Development Bank is one of the key partners of AMCAO. It plays an important role in the financing of water and sanitation across the continent, and it hosts the African Water Facility, which is an initiative of AMCAO. Without any delay, let's welcome Dr. Bess Dunford, the Vice President for Agriculture, Human and Social Development at the bank. Dr. Dunford's remarks will be presented by Mr. Oswald Chanda, the Director for Water Development and Sanitation Department at the bank. Over to you, Director. Due to technical difficulties, Mr. Chanda is not able to join us for the moment.
Water is indispensable in agricultural production for food security. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome the Chair of UN Water and President of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, Mr. Gilbert Hongbo.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to say how grateful I am to His Excellency Hage Gottfried Geingob, President of Namibia, for hosting this important event, and to AMCAO and the African Union Commission for inviting me to speak to you today. Dear colleagues, the water, sanitation, and hygiene crisis in Africa remains acute in many places. While so many Africans lack access to sustainable, safe water and sanitation, our continent will be held back, and enormous numbers of people will have their lives blighted for want of the most basic human services. To escape the pandemic and to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we need to tackle this failure, and we need to do it now. Africa Water Week and Africa Sun showcase 3 qualities that are going to make this possible: political will, collaboration across sectors, and expertise on the ground. As delegates this week, you are a coalition for action. What binds you together is the knowledge that achieving SDG 6 is everyone's business. We all know that the challenges in Africa are huge in scale and daunting because of geography, climate diversity, and sometimes conflict. We know that the region, and indeed the world, is off track to ensure water and sanitation for all by 2030. But we also know what to do. The SDG 6 Global Acceleration Framework shows how to get things moving, how to get back on track. But it will only succeed if we put it into full effect. We need to act with the speed and urgency that matches the size and complexity of the problem. For as long as sustainable water and sanitation are fragile and piecemeal, public health and sustainable development will remain under threat. So let us work together to get the job done. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Your Excellency, for those remarks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, water, sanitation, and hygiene, as we all know, are intrinsic to Africa's social transformation agenda. However, the sector is plagued by many challenges. In the midst of all those challenges, progress is made in several areas across the continent. Here is a video of some of the challenges and the initiatives that are being taken to address them.
Global water crisis indicates 780 million people lack basic drinking water access, more than 1 of every 10 people on the planet. With women and girls spending an estimated 200 million hours hauling water every day, and the average woman in Africa walks 6 kilometers every day to haul 18 kilograms of water. This is alarming for key players to address. Africa, blessed with abundant waters, rivers and lakes, scattered across regions and countries, yet not enough to drink and not enough for many more uses. From water scarcity in agriculture, leading to food shortages, to scarcity of water for drinking and other domestic and industrial uses, or water to support safe sanitation delivery, to not enough resources to utilize the hotspots for energy, the continent continues to grapple with efforts to improve access. These issues across African countries in the water sector remain germane and salient for the African continent. Water scarcity and supply, sanitation and hygiene, climate change, which form parts of the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs target, fall in line with the vision and mission statement of the African Ministers' Council on Water, AMCOW, living up to its statutory bidding of mainstreaming efforts of member states through a periodic appraisal and peer review of set targets that is today changing the narratives for good. And climate change means water change, either too much rain leading to flooding, or too little or no rain, leaving Africa with several areas threatened with drought. Against the background of climate change with its concomitant consequences, Namibia Aquifer Groundwater provides a classical model of bridging the gap of water scarcity in Africa. Not just water, the COVID-19 pandemic has again taught us that sanitation and hygiene play a key role to good health and prevention of life-threatening diseases. Currently, high-level political commitments and action are needed to end the scourge of open defecation and deliver better fecal sludge management currently plaguing the continent.
I call on all state governments to complement this effort by affording the sector similar recognition to enable us to work together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals targets for water supply, sanitation, and hygiene by 2030.
Although implementation strategy for these commitments are on, with different models adaptation, this Pan-African organization, in its unflinching resolve, is re-emphasizing more commitments from member countries and partners through engagement such as the Africa Water and Sanitation Week Conference. Now is time to move from commitments to actions.
Africa Sun ministerial commitments have been the centerpiece of the Africa Sun initiative since 2008. The Itiquini commitments were endorsed by the ministers in charge of sanitation at Africa Sun 2 in Durban, South Africa, and later by the head of states in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, in the same year. Since then up to now, the Africa Sun commitments are being monitored and reported on by AMCAO. In 2015, in Dakar, Senegal, the Ngor commitments were endorsed to help the continent achieve the SDGs and the continent's vision for sanitation and hygiene. Ladies and gentlemen, the AMCAO Secretariat hereby presents the second report showing Africa's progress towards achieving the Ngor commitments. Let's welcome Mr. Patrice Lemeni, the AMCAO Monitoring and Evaluation Lead, to make the presentation.
Thank you, Maimuna. Your Excellency, colleague, so I'm going to present the progress on the Ngor report. I'm Patrice Lemeni, as Maimuna said. I'll share my screen. If you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, please? Okay. So I'm going to present the progress on the Africa Sun Ngor commitment, as Maimuna said. So our topic of today will highlight the Ngor commitment and the vision, the monitoring process, the type of indicator we are working on, the overall country's performance, the average score of the data collection, the analysis we did from the data we collected from our member states, and then the key recommendation on how to improve the next step of the Ngor report. So a bit of history, has Maimuna said, the Ngor Declaration on Sanitation and Hygiene was issued on 27 May 2015 by African minister responsible for sanitation and hygiene at the conclusion of the Africa Sun 4 meeting in Dakar. This is just a picture of the meeting. So the Ngor Declaration contained a vision for sanitation and hygiene in Africa, which is to achieve universal access to adequate and sustainable sanitation and hygiene services and eliminate open defecation by 2030. and a set of action that the African government, supported by other stakeholders and partners, committed themselves to take and to implement in terms of achieving this vision have been defined as the 10 commitments of the NGO has listed here from 1 to 10. So our presentation will focus on to show how our member states are progressing in terms of achieving what was decided or what was agreed during the conference in Dakar in 2015. Now, for the NGO report that I'm going to present the data, here we want to present to show the process, how we move into the development of this NGO report. As you know, in 2018, 2019, we launched the baseline report of the Africa Sun NGO report, and the baseline report was shared with all our member states in 2019. So based on that, the information of the 2019 baseline report, we conducted the first round of the monitoring of the goal within our member state in 2020. For that, we started by a review of the different indicators of the Africa Sun goal commitment, with the approval of all our member states in last year in January, where all our key stakeholders and member states have approved the different indicators on how to collect them. So after the review of the indicator, we organized a capacity building activity where we strengthened the capacity of more than 100 focal points of sanitation and partners on how to collect and report the data collection tool of the NGO commitment. So after the training, AMCAO will launch the data collection campaign within our member states. And result of this, despite the COVID-19 situation, 38 countries have submitted their data to the Secretariat. So after receiving the data, we went through a quality review of all the information that have been submitted to AMCAO Secretariat to check the evidence of all the information that have been submitted and to ensure that the information that we are receiving are very, very good. So after all this process of quality review and analysis, we organized a regional consultation meeting within our 5 regions, the East, the North, the South, the Central and the West Africa region, with the participation of all our government representatives from the Ministry in charge of Sanitation and Hygiene, and also our key partners who participated during those different meetings. So in the meeting we presented the key output from the process, from the data collection, and we received a lot of feedback from our member states on how to improve some of the data that have been presented. So after this regional consultation, we now proceed with the development of the NGO report. So the NGO report was developed, and the first draft was shared to all our member states, where we received to all our member states and partners, during which we received a lot of comment from the report, which we integrated into the report, and the final version is now available and will be shared to all our stakeholders after this meeting in French and English. So after the report, we will discuss the key outcome from the report during the country dialogue that will be organized during the whole week of this Africa Water and Sanitation Week from the 22nd to 26th of November. Now, for the NGO, for the Africa Sun NGO commitment, we have three type of indicator. The first type of indicator is at enabling environment, which is stage 1 of the NGO, which track enabling environment in a standard way. The second stage here now is in terms of the country target indicator. Here we track the progress against each target that has been set by our member states. And each target here, the target are different from one country to another. And then the last type of indicator we have here, the third type, is the vision indicator, which we track the outcome in terms of access and use using the data reported via the WASMO platform. Now, in terms of the overall performance of the countries, so we present the performance of our member state per type of indicator, per stage. So we'll start with the first stage, which is term of enable environment indicator. So you can see here into this chart, the chart here presented, they show the performance of countries with respect. The chart here presented the performance of countries with respect to the 10 goal commitment that are aimed at improving the enable environment for sanitation and hygiene. So you can see here the data for the baseline. The data for the baseline here, 2018, is presented alongside with the 2020 information. The 2020 data that have been collected as an average, which is presented here as an average score for all the data collected from our member state. So we can notice here that there is some improvement within some of our commitment. So the average score of countries in the 2 years, so we can notice here the average score for our member state in the 2 years in 2018 and 2020 lie in the range of 2.5 to 4. So of a maximum of 5, as you can see based on the information, the number we put in this cycle. So we notice that there is a lot of improvement. There's an improvement under the commitment 2. You can see the commitment 2, which is mobilizing partners. Under commitment 1, eliminating inequality, and commitment 10, Africa Sun engagement. We also notice that there are some decline in some of our commitment based on this analysis that we can see here under commitment 5, developing the HR, the human resource capacity, the commitment 8, which is the private sector engagement, and commitment 9, which is establishing the monitoring within our countries. We also notice that there are some situations that have not been changed within the 2 years. I think we have the status quo here under the commitment 7. You can see here the commitment 7, the commitment 3, and then the commitment 6, which is institutional sanitation and hygiene. So the next slide I will present will give more information and more information on how our member states perform under each commitment. So here, this chart also is here. This one is presented like an histogram for each commitment. You can notice here, the left side, the left side is the status of the 2018 information, data, and the right side here is the 2020 information. So you can notice that there are some improvement. There are some improvement within 2018 and 2020 for some information. So an improvement in the enabling environment indicator for the commitment is manifest by an upward here, by an upward trend in the field area. Why a deterioration? You will notice that the deterioration is manifest by a downward trend in the field area. So based on this analysis and comparing the 2 years, the baseline here, the 2018 and the 2020, we came to an agreement to confirm the information that was previously presented in that in the previous chart, that there's improvement under the commitment 10, as you can see here. The green here is mean that we have many countries that improve under the commitment, which is the Africa Sun engagement. That's why you are seeing this trend like upward here. There are decline here under the commitment 4, ensuring leadership. Improvement also under the commitment 2, where you see mobilizing partner. You can see here we have more green. So this one is a consolidation of the data that we receive from our member states, and we present it as this chart to present how our member states are moving in terms of some of the particular areas. So you will see here, for instance, under commitment 5, developing HR is where we have noticed a lot of decline from our members. You can notice that from 2018, which is here, to 2020, this decline here is very poor here. It's around 1.5 here. So based on this analysis, we came to a conclusion that there were some improvement under the commitment 1 in eliminating inequality, commitment 2, mobilizing support, and commitment 10, the Africa Sun engagement. So this is where we notice a really improvement from our member state. Also, we noticed some decline, as I presented previously, under the Commitment 5, which is developing the human resources. Commitment 8, engaging the private sector, and Commitment 9, establishing the monitoring. We also noticed some statu quo, some countries that remain more or less at the same position compared to between 2018 to 2020 under the Commitment 3, Commitment 4, which is ensuring the leadership, Commitment 6, institutional sanitation hygiene, and the Commitment 7, treating waste. So the figure also shows us that there were very strong improvement mostly under the Commitment 2. Under Commitment 2 of mobilizing support from member states, and the Commitment 10 of Africa Sun engagement, and a strong decline based on the analysis that I presented previously. Based on the strong decline was under the Commitment 5. So overall, we can say about the 2/3 of the member states perform moderately or poorly with respect to the enabling environment indicator. So now we will move to the next stage of the indicator, the second type of indicator of the Africa Sun goal, which is the country target indicator. So to be in position to fulfill the goal commitment, the our member states have set up national target and indicator for tracking progress towards the commitment. So I will present now a chart that presents how our member states, in terms of setting their proper target, how are we moving. So the country targets are unique, and therefore progress towards the achievement of national target cannot be compared across the country. So you can notice here, under the Commitment 1, you see all here, the blue line show the progress, the blue arrow show the progress in between 2018 to 2020, and the red line, the red arrow here show the decline in terms of the country who have set their national targets. So we can notice here under the Commitment 1, we have noticed an improvement, an increase from the countries who have set their target under the Commitment 1. Commitment 2 also, there's also an increase, you can see here, 2018. Commitment 3, we can notice that there's a decline of countries setting their target, establishing and track the budget line. Under the Commitment 5, we also notice this and the increase of the national target defined from our member state. Here under Commitment 6, you can notice that for all the indicators, we notice there's some decline on setting the target from our member state. And you also see the same thing under the Commitment 9, where you have government monitoring review system, where we notice also a decline in terms of setting the target, setting their target. So this information shows that around the combined average for the indicator is around 20% of countries being on track to meet their national target for the goal commitment. So in the report, you have more information and more analysis. We have made a correlation analysis between the stage 1 and stage 2 and see how the support into the stage 1 can contribute to achieve what we have under the stage 2. All those information are into the Ngo report that will be shared with you in French and English. So as I was saying, we notice an increase in the countries, report under the Commitment 1, eliminating inequality, Commitment 2, mobilizing support, and Commitment 7, treating waste. We also notice, based on the data we received from our member state and the comparison with the 2018 information, that you have a decline in terms of countries who set their target under Commitment 3, establishing budget, Commitment 6, institutional sanitation and hygiene, Commitment 9, establishing monitoring. Here we also notice something does not, the commitment where nothing has changed within our member state in terms of setting their target. We have in terms of developing human resources and engaging private sector. So these are the overall conclusion of the analysis of the stage 2 of the different indicator, and from the data we received from our member state in 2020 in comparison with the 2018 baseline data that was collected before. So less than 50% of the African Union countries have set up national target and indicator for tracking the progress. So this could be one of the points we should follow up for the next monitoring, the next round of the monitoring, to really support our member state on how to setting up their target, their national target. So overall, this is just a summary in terms of the indicator. Previously, we presented the performance under each commitment of the Africa Sun goal, the Africa Sun goal. Now, under each commitment, we have indicators that help us to track the achievement of those indicators. So we did also an analysis to know which indicator our country performed very well compared to the 2018 information. And from the analysis, we noticed that there is an improvement of our member state in this indicator in terms of the cross-sectoral coordination mechanism. So we noticed that there's a lot of improvement within our member state in terms of the improvement of the cross-sectoral coordination. Also, in terms of the high-level political support for sanitation and hygiene, we noticed a lot of support from our member state of this. Also, in terms of this indicator, in terms of developing and adopting the sanitation and hygiene policy, we noticed a lot of improvement in that area, and the establishment or the designation of institution for sanitation and hygiene. These are the different indicators we noticed some improvement from our member state. Nevertheless, we also noticed some weekly performance in terms of the indicator that we receive from our member state. So you can notice and following the following indicator: elimination untreated human waste disposal into the environment. Here we notice some decline in the reporting comparing to 2018. Preparing and implementing sanitation and hygiene investment plan. We also notice some decline information here, data from our member state. The private sector engagement. So we notice a reduction of the involvement of the private sector in supporting our member state to achieve the goal commitment, and tracking of sanitation and hygiene budget expenditure. And then this, we also notice this in terms of the human resource development. This is the different area where we really need to look if we want to achieve the target for the goal commitment. So the average score of countries, you can see here the average score of country in terms of the enabling environment. You will see in the green is those who perform very well. You will see in yellow those who are moderate, and in red those who are poor. So we can notice here there is no poor country in terms of, no country is performing poor in terms of the enabling environment. So more or less our member states are between poor to very strong. So in terms of very strong, we have only one member state who are performing very, very well based on the data we receive from them. So this information shows that there is a lot of potential for peer learning among our member states with respect to the best practice for sanitation and hygiene. So based on this mapping, we can see that we can facilitate a lot of peer-to-peer learning within our member state to share the best practice on how some of the countries are moved to the green and others are still the poor or the moderate level. So now, based on the information we receive and the data analysis, so we developed some key recommendations to AMCAO. The first is to improve the coordination of coordinate the effort of the countries to use the 2020 monitoring round to address the area of weaknesses. The other one is to promote the learning and sharing experience and best practice, as I was saying, can liaise with other partners and multilateral financial institutions to identify and promote innovative financing mechanisms for sanitation and hygiene. And for the ASPG that was launched a few months ago, we should continue to coordinate the rollout and the uptake of the African sanitation policy guideline to support the improvement of the enabling environment for sanitation on the continent. Hold out the first monitoring round of the CAMISA made by our sector stakeholder, because we can achieve our vision without the involvement of the private sector. So we should really see how we can implement the CAMISA statement during the next round of the monitoring of the NGO. As conclusion, AMCAO is looking forward to the support and cooperation of our member state and partners for the implementation of the recommendation that I mentioned. We have many recommendations in the report that will be shared with you. Also, the second point also, we continue to follow with our member states, working closely with the African Sun International Task Force on the implementation of the country action plan. So our expectation is at the end, after this, after the presentation of this report, we will support our member states to develop the country action plan and see how we can support them also to implement what they have planned into that action plan. It's also focused on the improvement of the commitment that we noticed that some of our countries have declined into that for those commitment and indicators that identify as weak. So these are what we are planning to implement as a next step after this report. Thank you very much. Maimuna, over to you.
Thank you, Patrice, for the insightful presentation. To ramp up the advocacy for improvement in sanitation and hygiene services provision at the highest level in the continent, AMCAO recently appointed a champion for sanitation and hygiene. Ladies and gentlemen, let's warmly welcome Her Excellency Fatima Madabiyo, the First Lady of Sierra Leone and Africa Champion for Sanitation and Hygiene, to deliver her goodwill message.
Your Excellency Amina Mohammed, Your Excellency Ambassador Josepha Lionel Correa Sacco, Honorable Carl Herman Gostes, Honorable Ministers and members of the AMCAO Governing Council, Excellency Dr. Rashid Bazera, Excellency Gilbert Humbo, Excellency Dr. Bet, Excellency Ambassadors Abdullah Sani, Delegated Representative of the AU Member State, representative of our funding, technical and implementing partners, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observers. It is said that water is life and sanitation is dignity. Whereas I agree that water is life, sanitation and hygiene are the indispensable ingredients that guarantee a healthy, productive, and dignified life. Despite the importance of these ingredients, over 700 million people on the continent do not have access to safely managed sanitation. Many more lack access to hygiene, informations, educations, and hardware. Shockingly, it is women, girls, of course, children who make up the bulk of these numbers. To put this in perspective, As we speak, many mothers and young girls are exposed to many hazards in the course of defecation in the open. Many more do not have access to menstrual hygiene hardware and information. They are trapped by the cultural and traditional, which brands menstruation as a taboo and will consistently be subjected to inhumane treatment during their monthly menstrual cycle. We must collectively work to change this negative trend. The cumulative impact of these are felt nationally and regionally in many ways through the effect of the people and its livelihood. They affect school enrollment and they affect retention in school. It also affects our health in many ways. Above all, it has massive impact on our economy. We must not let this continue. The report of the African San-Gore Ministerial Commitment Monitoring Report carried out by AMCAO for 2020 indicates that there is limited progress in the fundamental elements which constitute the enabling environment for improving sanitation and hygiene. What this means is that we do not have solid foundation upon which we can plan and set national targets. One key foundation for improving sanitation is the policy and strategies followed by country action plan and targets. Luckily, the African Sanitation Policy Guidelines, which was launched recently by AMCAO, is a useful tool to help us develop our policies. We have a number of countries already using it to develop their sanitation and hygiene policies. That is already a giant first step. But the next important step is for our leaders to provide the needed political will to ensure that the needed financial resources are made available for us to implement the policies to accelerate progress towards universal access to sanitation and hygiene across the African continent. In my role as the African champion for sanitation and hygiene, I intend to support AMCAO to ramp up the advocacy for the uptake of the ASPG and the implementation of the policies that will be developed. I am happy that the ASPG contains a section on hygiene, including menstrual hygiene and menstrual health, which is very close to my heart. As most of you here may already be aware, I have a menstrual hygiene program supporting young women and girls in Sierra Leone. I plan to work with other African First Ladies across the continent to add menstrual hygiene and health to other initiatives they are working on already to positively impact the livelihood of our women and girls because they deserve it. Effect of poor sanitation and hygiene affects school enrollment and retention. This impacts negatively the livelihood and the entire family and society. There is a popular saying in Africa that if we educate and empower women, we have succeeded in improving the livelihood of the entire African family and our continent. No, I'm sorry to the men, don't feel bad. Let's take the necessary step to improve the productivity of our families by supporting the improvement of hygiene of our women and girls in order to keep them in school. It is important to educate our girls. We all know that SDG end state targets are just around the corner. The African Water Vision 2025 is almost here. It is also common knowledge that achieving most of the SDGs depends a lot on our performances and level of prioritization of the SDG 6, which we have enormously agreed and termed the cornerstone goal. This means there is an urgent need to accelerate progress towards achieving the African Water Vision 2025. There is no more time for delays. COVID-19 has dealt us a huge blow, but in the midst of this pandemic, we see an opportunity to deepen our work on hygiene. I hope that in the course of this discussion, we will find ways to deepen the newly adopted hand hygiene behavior, which include the use of hand sanitizers, which have become very common lately. I also hope that we will review our hygiene programming approach to that end. I call on all you to join hands with me to ensure that our government do more to reduce the hardship faced by our sisters, mothers, and children. I call on all African First Ladies to be ambassadors in their countries and push for increased prioritization of sanitation and hygiene. I call on our leaders to bring more women into leadership position in water and sanitation sector. It is those who feel the impact the most that are in best position to solve the problem. I call for better engagement of the private sector. This will open up opportunities for employment in the sector and bring in more investment into service provision. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as I round up, permit me to remind you that access to safe sanitation and hygiene and clean water are indispensable if we are to achieve the Agenda 2063. The Africa we want is the Africa we should start building now. I wish you all a fruitful deliberation, and thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your goodwill message. AMCAO is a lead convener for the African Union member states and other key players in the continent's water and sanitation sector. As a result, we work closely with many partners within the continent and around the world. Some of these partners will be delivering goodwill messages today. The African Development Bank is one of the key partners of AMCAO. It plays an important role in the financing of water and sanitation across the continent. And it hosts the African Water Facility, which is an initiative of AMCAO. Without any delay, let's welcome Dr. Bess Dunford, the Vice President for Agriculture, Human and Social Development at the bank. Dr. Dunford's remark will be presented by Mr. Odwa Chanda, the Director for Water Development and Sanitation Department at the bank. Over to you, Director.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. But, you know, after such a passionate appeal and the speech from a mother, you are lost for words. You know, what else could you say? The appeal has already been made and we just need to get down to work. Before I make this speech, just to appreciate and recognize the work that AMCO and the AU are doing. What I have in my background, that's not a swimming pool. That is a waste stabilization pond. So we're talking about water, we are talking about waste. So just want to see that we are very much in sync this Africa Water and Sanitation Week. Your Excellency, Page Gottfried Gengob, the President of Namibia, represented by His Excellency Mr. Nangolo Mbumba, the Vice President of Namibia, Your Excellency Amina Mohamed, the UN Deputy Secretary General, Your Excellency Joseph Sako, Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture at the AUC, Your Excellency Fatima Mada, by your First Lady of Sierra Leone and Africa Sanitation and Hygiene Champion, a great champion indeed, Honorable Ka Heyman Gustav, when Minister for Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, the Republic of Namibia, and the AMCA President, Dr. Rashid Mbazira, Executive Secretary for AMCA, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed. I'm delighted to join you in this opening session of Africa Water and Sanitation Week 2021 to give a message of goodwill on behalf of the Africa Development Bank Group. First, I would like to congratulate AMCO and the African Union and the development partners who have made it possible to convene this event during such an unprecedented period when we are still feeling the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Africa faces several water challenges. The gap between water demand and supply is widening, largely due to population growth, compounded by rapid urbanization, where more consumers are demanding more water. Someone said, economic development is thirsty. At an aggregate level, it is forecast to get steadily worse, indicating increasing water shortages. The scarcity of water could be attributed to contaminated local water supplies, the distances to the nearest source of water, droughts, or climate change. Addressing climate change requires bold actions and massive investments. Such an investment in resilient water infrastructure, as reflected at the COP26. But we have the prevailing challenges from COVID-19 pandemic. And it's time to call upon all of us to explore ways to build back better, mobilize resources during the post-COVID-19 recovery, and develop post-COVID-19 recovery plans. From the 2021 Africa Economic Outlook, we know that Africa has suffered its worst recession in more than 50 years. While Africa's GDP is expected to grow by 3.4% in 2021, this shrank by 2.1% in 2020. As a result, the country's debt burden is likely to rise between 10 to 15% in the short to medium term. Fiscal deficits also doubled in 2020 to a historical high level of about 8.4% of the GDPs. This justifies the need to optimize the resources available, ensure harmonization of approaches, and come up with innovative financing models to achieve water security in Africa. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is for this reason that we find the theme for this conference focusing on mobilizing government and stakeholders to accelerate action on water security and access to safely manage sanitation and hygiene in Africa very relevant. This conference provides a unique opportunity to prescribe solutions to the challenges that confront us today. The Bank Group is committed to contribute to addressing the challenges through its 5 strategic priorities, the high fives, building on its 10-year strategy, which ends next year. The bank's high five, which are to light up and power Africa, feed Africa, industrialize Africa, integrate Africa, and improve the quality of life for the people of Africa. These areas are essential, and in transforming the lives of the African people are consistent with the Sustainable Development Goals. The Bank Group Board of Directors this year approved the policy on water and water strategy 2021 to 2025, which are aligned to the bank's high fives, the Africa Water Vision and the Sustainable Development Goals and the Agenda 2063. The policy provides a framework for the bank's group's water sector and reflects the agency to initiate reforms to avoid a crisis of water scarcity and environmental degradation. The policy aims to enhance Africa's water security and transform its assets to foster sustainable, green, and inclusive socio-economic development. It is underpinned by promoting an attainment of water security for inclusive growth, an IWRM approach, and increasing access to water services with regional cooperation through the use of shared water resources within and between countries. The bank strategy presents the bank's strategic focus and priorities to support the operationalization of the policy on water. And the chief goal is improving the quality of life for the people of Africans. Ladies and gentlemen, both the policy on water and strategy reflect the perspectives of a diversity of stakeholders, from agriculture, energy, industry, private sector, governments, and define priorities where change is needed most in order to meet the UN 2030 agenda on water. As I conclude, the bank group stands ready to strengthen partnerships through water sector donor coordination under the AMCA umbrella and to strengthen the knowledge base and access to finance to support the needs of the countries on this continent in their efforts to build back better from the COVID-19 pandemic and efforts of climate change to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals on water and sanitation. I thank you for your attention, and I'm out. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director, for your goodwill message. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, as you are all aware, we are counting days to one of the biggest world events of the sector. The 9th World Water Forum will be hosted in Dakar, Senegal in March 2022. The outcomes of the Africa Water and Sanitation Week are therefore expected to contribute to what will become Africa's position at the World Water Forum. An extraordinary summit of the African Union on Water and Sanitation will also be held on the margins of World Water Forum in Dakar. During the summit, the Assembly of the Heads of State and Governments of the African Union will chart new strategic directions for the water and sanitation sector. The Assembly will give new impetus to achieve the Africa Water Vision 2025, the SDGs 2030, and Africa Agenda 2063. Here to share more details on the preparations for Dakar 2022, permit me to welcome the Executive Secretary of the 9th World Water Forum, His Excellency Ambassador Abdoulaye Sen. Over to you, Mr. Sen.
Merci bien. Monsieur le ministre Karl Herman, président de AMCAO, Madame la commissaire de l'Union africaine, Monsieur le secrétaire exécutif de AMCAO, Monsieur le directeur en charge de l'eau de la Banque africaine de développement, Mesdames et Messieurs, tout protocole respecté. C'est avec un grand et réel plaisir, dans ma qualité de secrétaire exécutif du 9e Forum mondial de l'eau, je prends part à cette semaine africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement. Permettez-moi avant tout de féliciter AMCAO, la Commission de l'Union africaine et la République de Namibie pour l'organisation de cette semaine et de les remercier bien chaleureusement pour la haute attention qu'ils ont bien voulu accorder au processus du 9e Forum mondial de l'eau qui est prévu à Dakar du 21 au 26 mars 2021. Je voudrais rappeler ici que le thème du forum, la sécurité de l'eau pour la paix et le développement, entre en parfaite ligne avec les préoccupations de cette édition de la Semaine africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement. Les sujets qui seront abordés au cours de cette semaine sont assurément d'une très grande importance pour notre continent, qui demeure encore très fortement en retard sur les objectifs de développement durable et plus particulièrement sur l'ODD 6. L'état de mise en œuvre de l'accès à l'eau et à l'assainissement qui sera fait au cours de cette semaine, tout comme l'ensemble des recommandations de la semaine, offriront des inputs de haute valeur ajoutée pour le 9e Forum mondial de l'eau. Nous comptons beaucoup sur cette semaine, mesdames et messieurs, pour voir l'Afrique, dans toutes ses composantes, consolider et affiner sa feuille de route et ses ambitions en direction du Forum de Dakar 2022. Je me réjouis de l'opportunité qui m'est offerte pour évoquer dans les grandes lignes les avancées significatives dans la préparation du Forum. Mesdames et messieurs, grâce à un processus ouvert, inclusif et participatif, plus d'un millier d'institutions publiques et privées à travers le monde ont pris part aux travaux d'élaboration du contenu thématique du Forum. C'est le lieu de remercier et de féliciter les membres des groupes de travail, particulièrement ceux issus des institutions africaines pour la qualité de leur contribution. Je voudrais aussi me réjouir de la tenue de nos séances de travail avec les communautés économiques régionales, avec le soutien bien sûr de AMCAO et de l'Union africaine. Nous avons travaillé avec la CEDEAO, avec l'IGAD, avec la SADC, avec la CEAC notamment. C'est le lieu de souligner à cet égard aussi que nous travaillons en parfaite synergie avec l'Union africaine et AMCAO pour la préparation du sommet extraordinaire des chefs d'État africains sur l'eau et l'assainissement en marge du 9e Forum mondial de l'eau. La présidence de l'Union africaine qui reviendra en 2022 à son Excellence M. Macky Sall offre l'opportunité historique d'un positionnement stratégique de la priorité eau dans l'agenda du continent et de ses partenaires. En vérité, la vision que nous avons nourrie depuis la conception du 9e Forum mondial de l'eau, notamment avec l'ambition d'en faire un forum des réponses tangibles, nous a amenés à explorer les meilleures connexions et avec les grands agendas internationaux sur l'eau et bien sûr avec l'agenda 2063 de l'Afrique. Aussi, les voies et modalités concrètes sont scrutées et démarchées pour que les résultats du forum irriguent et alimentent de manière significative les grands événements en perspective, notamment la grande conférence des Nations Unies sur l'eau de 2023. En tout état de cause, l'organisation du forum est globalement bien engagée au regard des dynamiques plus que satisfaisantes du processus, malgré le contexte inédit de la pandémie de Covid. Ainsi, du point de vue de la préparation thématique, les propositions des groupes de travail, notamment 92 actions et les messages clés adressés aux décideurs politiques ont été validés par le comité de pilotage international du forum à l'issue de la réunion des parties prenantes tenue à Dakar les 14 et 15 octobre dernier. Au surplus, nous avons également déjà adopté un projet d'agenda de la semaine qui vous sera soumis très prochainement. Par ailleurs, les actions de promotion du forum et de mobilisation des acteurs se sont poursuivies à travers la communication en tenant compte de la crise sanitaire qui nous a obligés à recourir essentiellement à des visioconférences. Néanmoins, Depuis quelques semaines, d'importantes actions ont été réalisées en présentiel avec notre participation physique à des événements internationaux de haut niveau, comme la Semaine arabe de l'eau, la conférence régionale de Dushanbe sur le 9e Forum mondial de l'eau, le Cairo Water Week, la COP 26 de Glasgow. Dans la même veine, le secrétariat exécutif du Forum compte prendre une part active au prochain congrès mondial de l'eau de Iura qui se tiendra prochainement en Corée. Toujours dans le cadre de la mobilisation internationale, des échanges prometteurs se sont poursuivis avec les banques internationales de développement. La Banque africaine de développement, bien sûr, qui est notre partenaire de premier rang, la Banque mondiale, la Banque interaméricaine, mais aussi la Banque islamique de développement. En outre, des missions ministérielles sont également prévues dans plusieurs pays, en Afrique et ailleurs, pour renforcer le partenariat en direction du 9e Forum mondial de l'eau. S'agissant de l'initiative Dakar 2022, nous avons déjà labellisé 71 projets et le processus va se poursuivre jusqu'à la fin du mois de décembre 2021. Ce processus a eu des effets et des échos très prometteurs. Près de 55 pays à travers le monde ont répondu à notre appel. Au plan logistique, les inscriptions aux activités sont déjà ouvertes depuis le 5 novembre 2021. Autant pour l'inscription des participants individuels au forum que pour ce qui concerne l'exposition et les stands pour le forum. Mesdames et messieurs, je disais tantôt que la préparation du forum était sur une pente rassurante. La deuxième réunion des parties prenantes en a donné un avant-goût. Nous avons, à l'occasion de cette réunion, pu rassembler en physique 430 participants et 460 personnes se sont connectées via la plateforme digitale, et ceci de 54 pays du monde, représentant une grande diversité d'acteurs politiques, de la société civile, des universitaires et des partenaires techniques et financiers, mais aussi de la société civile, notamment des jeunes et des femmes. Des séances de travail spécifiques ont pu être organisées avec les élus locaux, les parlementaires et les organisations de bassin pour fixer les différentes feuilles de route devant conduire à l'organisation de rencontres politiques pour les différents segments que j'ai indiqués. Aussi, une session de haut niveau a été organisée pour mettre en lien et en synergie le 9e Forum mondial de l'eau avec l'agenda onusien de l'eau. Cette rencontre a été rehaussée notamment par l'intervention des coprésidents de la Conférence des Nations Unies de 2023, notamment les Pays-Bas et le Tadjikistan. Par ailleurs, la feuille de route des 3 prochains mois porte sur la stabilisation et la publication du pré-programme du forum d'ici la fin de l'année, la préparation des panels de haut niveau, des sessions spéciales, de la déclaration de Dakar, de l'exposition, incluant le village africain, le village de l'assainissement et le parcours des réponses. À cet égard, j'invite tous les pays et tous les acteurs africains à réserver d'ores et déjà leur stand, à contribuer à l'animation des sessions, à proposer des side events et à sponsoriser des acteurs au moins limités, notamment, j'y reviens toujours, les jeunes, les femmes, la société civile. Je ne saurais conclure sans renouveler mes chaleureuses félicitations à AMCAO, à son secrétaire exécutif que nous accueillons, à la Commission de l'Union africaine, à la Banque africaine de développement pour la qualité de leur engagement aux côtés du Sénégal. Votre présence, aussi déterminée que rassurante à nos côtés, sur le chemin de Dakar 2022, nous permettra assurément de bâtir et de porter une contribution significative de l'Afrique dans l'agenda international de l'eau, en vue notamment d'assurer la sécurité de l'eau pour la paix et le développement partout et pour tous, et en particulier en Afrique. Je vous remercie de votre soutien et je souhaite une bonne semaine africaine de l'eau et de l'assainissement à tous les acteurs. Merci de votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Excellence. Many thanks, Your Excellency.
In 2015, we crossed the line on the MDGs, and we ushered in the SDGs era with a standalone goal on water and sanitation. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of the SDGs couldn't have been possible without the contribution and leadership of this daughter of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our singular honor and privilege to introduce to you Her Excellency, Amina Mohammed, the UN Deputy Secretary General.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm pleased to join you for the opening of the Africa Water and Sanitation Conference. We meet at a time of great urgency. The world is alarmingly off track to deliver water, sanitation, and hygiene services for all by 2030. The planetary crisis of climate change is making the situation even worse, increasing water scarcity. And when water and sanitation are lacking, it is the poorest and the most vulnerable who suffer most, including women and girls whose health, education, and work opportunities are severely affected. And in sub-Saharan Africa, about 70% of people lack access to safe drinking water, a basic need for life itself. Ladies and gentlemen, business as usual is no longer an option. We face a difficult truth. The world will not achieve the Sustainable Development Goals without urgent progress on access to water, sanitation, and hygiene services in Africa. I see three priorities for action. First, we must promote water security for all. This includes transboundary water cooperation, which can help build peace and prevent conflicts. To achieve this, I encourage all governments to accede, implement, and comply with the 2 global UN water conventions. Second, climate change adaptation efforts should focus on increasing the resilience of water systems in Africa. Next year's COP27 in Egypt will provide an important opportunity to advance these efforts, including ensuring that donors and development banks dedicate 50% of climate finance to adaptation. Third, we need to scale up finance for water and sanitation in Africa. In sub-Saharan Africa, the annual investment required to meet SDG 6 has been estimated at $35 billion a year. In North Africa, the amount is $4 billion a year, but the economic benefits of sanitation far outweigh these costs by an estimated 5 times. Across all of these areas of work, the UN is committed to working shoulder to shoulder with the African Union's members to bridge the gap on water and sanitation in Africa. As we embark upon the decade of action for sustainable development, let's recommit to ensuring that every person in Africa can benefit from water and sanitation as a basic human right, and as a necessary foundation of health and prosperity for communities and countries across Africa. Thank you.
Many thanks, Excellency.
And now, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for. Since February 2021, Namibia became the president of AMCAR for the next 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, let's all warmly welcome Honorable Carl Gustav Schlettwein, the Minister for Agriculture, Water and Land Reform of the Republic of Namibia and the President of the over to you, sir, to officially open this conference.
The team who moderates our conference, thank you very much. Your Excellency, Amania Mohamed, the UN Deputy Secretary General, Your Excellency Josefa Lona Correa Sacco, the Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Fatima Mada Biu, the First Lady of Sierra Leone and Africa's Sanitation and Hygiene Champion, Your Excellency Gilbert Hangbo, Chair of UN Water and President of IFAD, Your Excellency Dr. Bennett Dunford, Vice President, Agriculture, Human and Social Development of the African Development Bank, Honorable Ministers and members of AMCO Executive Committee, Honorable Adolai Sen, the Co-President of the International Steering Committee, 9th Water Forum, distinguished members of AMCO Technical Advisory Committee, Dr. Rashid Bazira, our new Executive Secretary, very welcome. That's of AMCO, and AU member states and development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed honored to welcome all of you to this AMCO Africa Water and Sanitation Conference of 2021. And I'm very pleased to convey the warmest regards to all of you from President Hage Geingob, the President of the Republic of Namibia. Of course, we had wished we could host you physically here in Namibia and meet face to face. But unfortunately, several circumstances prevented us from doing so. The new normal, that of holding conferences virtually, is with us, and therefore I wish to thank all of you who have joined us today. Fortunately, the new normal allows for optimum participation at this continental flagship event than would be physically attendance allow us. And judging by the number of participants joining us online now and over the course of this defining week, I'm pleased to note how popular this conference is. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this conference and our mandate is about the most valuable resource that we have, namely water. We are convening for a week-long dialogue to focus on our efforts on accelerated action and achieve sustainable development goals for water and sanitation in Africa. This joint 8th Water Week and 6th African Sanitation Conference, Africa San 6, will respectively focus on our two themes, namely water security for public health and human development, and accelerating access to safe sanitation and hygiene in Africa, 5 years into 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, and against the backdrop of COVID-19. We agree with the new emphasis on water and climate-related matters due to the centrality of water in the survival and sustainability for all forms of life on the planet. We just recently came out of COP26 in Glasgow, where the importance to link water and climate agendas has been re-emphasized, and hence the aim to set and pursue an integrated global water and climate agenda in support of national mitigation and adaptation actions. We believe that integrated water, weather and climate solutions bring direct benefit to people and business. Investment in integrated water management systems is therefore important at country, regional, and continental level, including investment in data and information management systems to support evidence-based resource management and public availability of information. Universal access to clean water and sanitation cannot be achieved without addressing the vast infrastructure gap that perpetuates undignified, unhealthy living conditions in many poverty-stricken areas of the globe. Access to knowledge, capacity building, and technology, equipping all stakeholders to act based on all information available is required. Universal access to clean water and sanitation also requires stepping up and improving access to affordable financing. About a month ago, we concluded the 4th edition of the Cairo Water Week in Cairo, Egypt. And that was done against the background of persistent challenges to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 6 on supply of water and better sanitation of all. We heard Her Excellency, the Deputy Secretary General, talk about the steep hill we have to climb. It was noted that an estimated 2.2 billion people have no access to safe, manageable, potable water globally, and about 2.4 billion people lack access to proper sanitation, with Africa featuring disproportionately high on this indicator dashboard. Water availability is a dependency to achieve 10 of the 7 sustainable development goals. No doubt, the outbreak of COVID-19 has exacerbated this predicament. It has underscored the need for Africa to address investment in bulk water supply and urgent need in sanitation sector for safety and hygiene protocols for all during this unprecedented times. Africa's response for investment in secure water generation and distribution infrastructure is contained in the Continental Africa Investment Program, AIP, a flagship program supported by the Africa Water Facility and the Global Water Partnership. However, the mobilization of resources, public or private, and developmental, to finance the required investment outlay remains a difficult proposition. The theme on water security recognizes the vitality of effective water resource management to the advent of sustainable development in Africa. The sanitation theme prioritizes the development of inclusive policy and strategy for accelerating sanitation and hygiene improvement in Africa, given current and future pandemics. Our aspirations for economic growth and social transformation in Africa's Agenda 2063 are tied in with ensuring equitable availability of water and sanitation for all purposes, hence the centrality of availability of water resources as a dependent utility for economic and social progress. This calls for a number of action points, and I'll summarize 5. The first, action to meet water demands for all, that is domestic, industrial, and small-scale productive water users. Secondly, action to ensure availability, affordability, and reliability of water supply for economic production, particularly for industry, energy, and agricultural sectors. 3, action to mitigate against disaster risks from such water-related hazards as floods, droughts, and pollution. 4thly, action to enhance adaptation to climate resilience. And 5thly, urgent action to improve sanitation and hygiene services delivery for all across the African continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, commitment at the highest level on water and sanitation is evidenced from the 2008 Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration for accelerating the achievement on water and sanitation goals in Africa. Also, through the Africa Water Vision 2025, the Ngor Declaration on Water Security and Sanitation, and the Sustainable Development Goals Agenda 2030. We have seen when we listened to the report that commitment is improving, but the actual implementation thereof lags behind. So we have to ensure that we are not regressing. Despite this, we are still challenged to translate the political commitments into action on the ground. 21 years of pursuing the Africa Water Vision 2025, 8 years since the launch of the Agenda 2063, and 5 years into the implementation of the SDGs, the continent still faces enormous development challenges, not least to mention teething challenges in the water and sanitation sectors. Indeed, available information from our African water and sanitation sector monitoring system indicates that 63% of the urban population in Africa still faces challenges in accessing water. About 340 million people in Africa lack access to potable water. About 550 million people in Africa lack access to basic sanitation. Less than 50% of the African population have hand washing facilities with soap at home. The prevalence of open defecation was on the rise in the period 2000 to 2017. And the underdevelopment of water infrastructure accounts for up to 2% of Africa's lost annual GDP growth. This unusual state of affairs is unacceptable and calls for concerted efforts to avert a scenario where our failures in service delivery in water and sanitation sector become the limiting factor for Africa's development agenda. It is well documented that access of water and sanitation is essential for ensuring human equality, protecting people's dignity, guaranteeing their well-being, ending poverty and vulnerabilities to disease, and thus catapulting Africa's progress on the Human Development Index ladder. Poor sanitation and consumption of contaminant water have numerous social and economic impacts and place a huge burden on national economies. According to UNECA, up to 5% of the combined gross national product of Africa is estimated to be lost each year to morbidity and mortality resulting from poor sanitation and consumption of contaminated water. Continuing on this trajectory does not bode well for achieving the goals of Africa's Agenda 2063, especially Aspiration 1, which is, and I quote, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this conference provides us with an opportunity to reinvigorate our commitment to achieving the water and sanitation goals in Africa. It identifies new approaches for accelerated action to deliver tangible benefits to our people. It should exchange knowledge, information, and experience on what has worked in different contexts, as well as it should mobilize partnerships to consolidate our achievement and address the challenges we are facing. As the host of this conference, we call upon Africa's political leadership and the water and sanitation community to prioritize commensurate investment in water and sanitation. Strengthening water security and sustainable sanitation is a prerequisite for inclusive socio-economic development. Your Excellencies, I wish to thank you all for attending this conference, and I'm looking forward to the conference statement of outcomes and concrete course of action. This statement will be used to inform the deliberations of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union in March 22. That summit will be organized on the margins of the 9th Water Forum in Dakar, Senegal, as we heard just now. We should not miss this opportunity to make the maximum impact at that summit. And on this note, I welcome you to this Africa Water and Sanitation Conference 2021, which I now declare duly open, and I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President, for your opening remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, the conference is officially open. We have sessions lined up after this opening today. We will start tomorrow with the interministerial panel discussion, which will be followed by a series of interesting technical sessions spread across the Africa Water Week 8 and the Africa Sun 6 streams. Until we come your way again for the closing ceremony on Friday,
we wish you all a very engaging and interesting week. Keep sharing on social media and don't forget to tag AMCO and use the hashtag AWSWeek.
Signing out from the AMCO Secretariat until tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. for the interministerial panel discussion. See you then.
See you tomorrow.